obviously one thing that's very common in Europe and is not so common in the US is that you have this model of the free walking tour,
Right.
which is a tour where, you show up, you don't have to pay anything up front, for the tour, but at the end of the tour, you tip the tour guide based on how much you like the tour.
More about this unique concept later in the podcast.
This is Jim Bratton Podcast. You may enjoy some, or all, or none. Now, here's Jim.
This is Jim Bratton, and this is the Jim Bratton Podcast. Today we're talking to John Gu.
Hello.
Thank you, John, for joining us.
I'm so excited to be doing this. This is really fun. I've never done a podcast before.
And we're recording, by the way, from the Proletariat, where John and I met, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's my favorite cafe in Galveston, by the way.
John, you have an incredibly interesting approach that you've taken to a fairly standard Galveston activity, and that is tours of Galveston, walking tours of Galveston.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to talk a little about the tour and its uniqueness in a little while, but how did you happen to decide? I mean, what motivated you to do for one thing, let's just take this from the beginning. You've recently assumed employment here on the island.
Yes.
But before that, were you coming down here on a regular basis?
No, not really. I did grow up in Houston, so I am not a complete stranger to Galveston. But only since this past year have I been, anything like a regular on the island. And I do live here now,
right?
Actually on the island. But before living in Galveston, I was living in Austin, living and working there.
Yeah.
And I just came here for a job, and that's when I started to live here and get to know the island. And really, it's pretty much my first time that I've really spent extended periods of time on this island as an adult. I've only, growing up, only came here as a kid a few times.
So did you, as a matter of fact, we don't need to know where you work. What type of work do you do, though?
So I work as a programmer.
Yeah.
My work is kind of tech-related, data-related. So it is very much a computer job, an office job, 9 to 5. If you want to get an idea of what I do, there's data at point A, and people need it at point B.
Got it.
And I move the data from point A to point B, and that's somehow that takes 8 hours of my day, 5 days a week.
With a real job, how did this whole interest in Galveston and its landmarks and its history begin to take form for you?
Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I had the idea of the walking tours first before I had the idea of bringing those tours to Galveston. So the real origin story is my walking tours in Houston, and I started those about a year ago.
Yeah.
And the Galveston walking tours is sort of an outgrowth of that has started this past summer, or this current summer that we're in.
Right.
But in September of last year, back in 2024, I started doing a walking tour of downtown Houston. And I was a little bit more familiar with Houston. I grew up there.
Right.
And even though I didn't live there my entire life, I've been in and out of Houston all the time. So I had this idea. It's kind of a crazy idea of just like doing a walking tour in Houston. I saw that no one else was doing it. And I was like, well, I can create one. So I ended up just spending a few weekends walking around downtown Houston, sort of figuring out where the landmarks are,
right.
Doing some research. And then I was like, all right, I now have a tour, and I started posting about it and advertising about it on different sort of platforms.
Right.
And then I started getting people coming in my tours, and it became a really popular thing in Houston. And the way that this Galveston tour started is like literally at the end of my Houston season, which was this past May. I did my last tour. It's like the first week of May, as it was starting to warm up.
Right.
And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna.
And this is your last Houston tour.
Yeah. Just a few months ago.
Right.
And then I was like, I'll start this up again in Houston in October. And then just as that was happening, as I was walking around Galveston, during the week, if I'm walking around during my lunch break or after work, I noticed that there were a lot more people out in the Strand and just around here in downtown Galveston, and I was kind of surprised by this. And the reason why I was surprised is because I haven't lived here for an extended time
Right.
ever, so I didn't know,
The-
on the ground that there's
the
that
depth
tourist.
of the depth of the street tourism.
Yeah, exactly. There's tourist season, and there's like all these people are walking around because there's tourists, logically, who come here in the summer, whether it's for the beach or for cruises or stuff. And then I sort of like had this like light bulb moment of like, well, I'm ending my tours in Houston, and there's lots of tourists in Galveston. Why not try to do some tours here in Galveston?
Tourists with a little time on their hands.
Yes, exactly. So over the month of May and June, I did some research. I walked around the Strand, downtown Galveston a lot, sort of got an idea of the landmarks, and also met with a couple of like history buffs. I met the guy who does the Galveston Unscripted
Right.
series, and talked with them, and then I was like, okay, well, actually, I have all the ingredients to make a kind of a nice tour. So then in July I launched the tour, and I've had some people come out and do the tour.
You have a very nice, clean website.
Thank you.
Got a little bit of YouTube follow up on it.
Yeah.
It pretty well tells the story. Now, let us talk about the one aspect of your tours that I think is unique, and that is they're free.
Yes. So the origin of that is kind of interesting as well. So I lived in Europe for many years. I actually lived there for, I would say about 5 years.
Yeah.
It's about 5 years. But I went there back in, let me get the timing right, back in 2013.
Right.
And the reason I went out there is because I was going to grad school in Amsterdam.
Right.
And
Well, that's rough.
yeah, yeah, it was a really tough time for me there. Obviously, yeah, great fun times. But during the time that I was in grad school, but also immediately afterwards, when I decided to stay in Europe, I traveled obviously to a lot of these touristic and famous European cities.
Yeah.
Some of the ones that are a little bit not the most famous as well, just
Right.
some places that are a little bit off the beaten path. But every city I went to, I would go on a walking tour of the city, because it was I thought it was a really good way to like get introduced to the city, to learn about the history and see things that you don't really you can't really see and understand in depth if you're just walking around by yourself.
Right.
And-
You may find it interesting,
Yes,
but you don't know the backstory.
exactly. Yeah, it looks nice, but you don't know. Yeah, you don't know anything.
Well, this is
about
pretty. Wonder
yeah.
what it is.
Exactly. But obviously one thing that's very common in Europe and is not so common in the US is that you have this model of the free walking tour,
Right.
which is a tour where you show up, you don't have to pay anything up front, for the tour, but at the end of the tour you tip the tour guide based on how much you like the tour. And this is a thing where it's a lot of times it's like young college students who are doing it, and it has sort of a fun amateur feel, but also kind of I found that doing these tours, I always enjoyed them more than tours that were paid. That you had to pay
Did
in
you
advance
feel
for.
like you weren't being hustled as much? Was that
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of-
absolutely. You're not hustled as much. It's a different vibe.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of person who's doing the tour, and it's not. There's this feeling of it's not like like some guy who's just listing all the facts.
Right.
For a specific building, he has to give you through a script. It's a little bit more informal, a little bit more fun, and I really like that whole vibe.
Sort of a conversational tour?
A little bit,
but
a little
a
bit.
little more give and take than some, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and
Well, I got to add this.
Yeah.
Let me back up a little bit. Your service industry is not a tip-based industry. Like in restaurant service and everything. It's interesting that this is a whole nother side of it that I was not aware of, but it's what a nice business model, though.
yes, and I think this, like, for me, if I think about myself as a traveler or myself as someone who's getting a service. You know, one nice thing about this is this model is I don't have to pay anything up front.
Yeah.
I don't have to even like a lot of times I don't even have to worry about like reserving a spot.
Right.
And if I want to change my mind from the morning tour to the afternoon tour, I don't have to worry about like a big rigmarole about all
Right.
that.
Going online trying to make a big change.
Yeah, exactly. And then also it's like I don't feel like I have to. I'm stuck there in the tour. Like if I don't know anything about the tour and ahead of time, my fear is like it's going to be lame. I paid like let's say $30 for this tour, and then within like 5 minutes, I realized, oh, this guide is not my style. Maybe he's not a bad guide; it's not my style. It's not what I want to do, and I don't want to feel like I'm stuck there for the next 2 hours.
Right.
So with this model, it's like, if I'm on the receiving end, I can just show up, see if I like it. If I like it, keep going through and then tip the guy at the end.
Right.
And then if I don't like it, or if I need to, I can't make it, I need to make a change. There's no money involved on the front end where I have to worry about like losing it because I was on that tour.
No bus to jump off of in the middle of
exactly.
Exactly. Wow. So you transferred this business model to Galveston.
Yes, and Galveston does not have this model yet. And also, it's a very rare model in the U.S. generally. There are a few cities. I've done a little bit of research now that I've done this. There are a few cities in the U.S. that have this model, but yeah, most places it is sort of more quote unquote traditional model of you pay for a tour in advance and then you go on the tour.
Since you're just getting this underway, how do you promote it?
I don't think I'm going to say I haven't done a very good job of promoting it. So there's three things I did. One is I put out some flyers. Right. So I have a friend who's a graphic designer. He's a really good graphic designer, a good friend of mine from high school. And he did my flyers from Houston. And we just adapted the flyers that I made last year, or that he made last year for Houston for the Galveston tour. And then I got those printed out at the Minuteman here on the island.
Right.
And I just put them in different cafes. Like I put them at here at Proletariat. I put them at Mod.
Right.
And so on. I put them at
the place as well. As an interesting point, here at the Proletariat, we just had 4 people all with baggage.
Yes.
Obviously coming or going from a tour.
Yes.
Or from a cruise.
Yeah.
Every one of them, or that group, was a potential walking tour client. Is that a fair question? Is that a fair analysis?
And they would have had yes, absolutely. And they would have. There's no friction for them to come to my tour because they don't even have to exchange money at the beginning to come.
I like this whole frictionless approach. So if 30 minutes into your tour they're having a great time, but oh wow, we got to leave pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
That's another thing as well.
So I've got one of your little handouts here. They're very nice, very clean. They tell the story. Now, and people can get a hold of you on the web then?
On the website, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do people not believe it's free?
No, actually, I have never had a situation where someone who came on the tour didn't understand the concept of the tour. So it's very interesting. When I give the tour, I typically mention the pricing or the money model,
right?
And twice I say at the beginning of the tour, hey, this is a free tour. If you'd like to tip me at the end, you can do that in cash or Venmo. I said that at the beginning of the tour, and then I say at the end, oh, that's going to be the end of our tour. If you'd like to tip me, I have this way or this way. And no one has ever been like no one was ever like, oh, I don't get it, and no one has asked about it. No one has been confused. I've never had someone not tip me on the tour either. I've had hundreds of people at this point, when you include my Houston tours.
Yes.
And it's a range, the amount that I get tipped. I've never felt that I've gotten an unfair tip It's like it's never
Do you
been.
sometimes get through and go, "Oh man, I didn't do a very good job on this tour. I'll be lucky if I get much."
Yeah, no. I've never had that situation. I've never felt like I've gotten like a tip that was like small either. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the tip amounts have been good, and I feel like people, everyone who's come to the tour, they they understand it. They understand that free, quote unquote, actually just means tip based.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's a bait and switch there. I just feel like that's just what we could name that pricing model, right? And yeah, I think the model is something that everyone has. Like I've never had an issue with anyone not understanding it.
I think it's a great business model.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, particularly as you're offering a product of value.
Yes, yes.
And a unique product.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Do most people complete the tour then? Most people allocate
yeah.
90 minutes for it, or just...
I think I'm a pretty interesting tour guy.
I think so.
A fun guy to talk to. But anyway, I have had... Okay, so I've had situations...
I'm asking difficult questions.
No. I've had people leave the tour because they've had to, because they, sometimes it's because they knew that they had to leave halfway through because they have to catch a bus, or
right.
they have to get on the cruise or whatever. I've had other situations where I've had a couple situations. This was more so in Houston, where people were affected by the heat.
Good point.
So yeah, it's in Houston, the tour is actually a little bit long. It's nearly 2.5 hours.
Oh my!
Which
walking Houston streets.
Yeah. I know. Which, if it gets hot out, can be a bit of a challenge. And everyone, most people, like 99% of people, are able to get through. But I had a couple of people who have had that be an issue for them, and then they had to leave the tour early. Yeah. And then I'll be honest, I've had like maybe 2 or 3 people out of the hundreds who've been on my tour who I think just were kind of got, like, honestly were just bored. Like it wasn't because it was a bad tour, but just because it was not the style, the thing that they were interested in.
Yeah.
And those people did, like, I think they left just because they were bored. But yeah, I think it's very rare, and it is one of the advantages of doing the tour in this way, where, like, I would feel bad if they paid me, full price, let's say $30 or $40 for a tour, and then they left, 30 minutes in because they weren't into it.
Let's take it fully down to Galveston. Tell me how people can reach you then.
Okay, so the tours are available at my website. So GalvestonWalkingTour.com. That's singular. Walking Tour, Galveston Walking Tour,
got it.
Galveston Walking Tours. And if you type into Google Galveston Free Walking Tour, usually I'm up like the top 5 Google choices. So those are the 2 ways to find my tours.
We'll put that, by the way, on the header of the podcast.
Okay,
we'll
perfect.
put the website. You've got a QR code, I see, on your little flyers.
Yes, and that takes it directly to the website. Yeah,
and you take semi-reservations there, it looks like. I mean, people will sign up for it.
Yes.
So you have a sense of how many people.
Yes, we do ask people to sign up for the tour, so we can plan the the tours ahead of time.
How many people do you typically have on a good tour? I'm asking some.
So we don't actually get that many people. So it's like, I would say 4 to 5 people. It's pretty standard on a.
So that means you've got interaction.
Yes.
Easy interaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So somebody doesn't stand in the back and not hear you.
Yes.
I notice you don't, from your YouTube videos, you don't use a sound system or anything like that.
No,
typically.
no.
You've got a small enough group you can talk to them.
Yeah,
it adds a sense of intimacy to it. And then go to the website at
GalvestonWalkingTour.com.
Anything you'd like to say to them in advance of the tour? Anybody listening that would like to come on the tour?
Do sign up ahead of time on the website. That's my main thing. And also be aware that we have our tours 5 days a week, Wednesday through Saturday. We do Wednesday through Saturday evenings. So we do our tours at 7 o'clock every day, and then every day Wednesday through Sunday. And then we also have tours Saturday and Sunday morning at 10 o'clock.
This has been a delight talking to John Gu, who has Walking Tour Galveston, or a walking tour of Galveston. It's GalvestonWalkingTour.com. You can find these flyers at any place here on the island in the Strand area. I'm sure at the coffee shops and other places.
Absolutely.
They're a bright red. They're about postcard size, and they have a QR on them. John, thank you very, very much for joining us today. This has been a delight.
I love it. I loved it. This is super fun.
This is Jim Bratton Podcast, and we're live from the proletariat.
This has been Jim Bratton Podcast. We hope you have enjoyed, been inspired, informed, angered, or otherwise emotionally stimulated. This is your booth announcer, Sierra Sakel.